G'day all, Ben here, East West. Going to take a look at uranium this week. Been a big week, obviously. We're stretching for the big blue sky and CCJ, so let's just jump in and have a look at some of these names. So we'll just start here with just CCJ on a weekly, and I'd been under the impression that maybe we're going to go into a trading range here, but this looks now like that's not going to happen. So we are going onwards. So when I look at this, I'm just sort of looking at the main pivots, just looking at it at a big picture. So I kind of look at this as, we had this rally, and then we had this sort of corrective movement here, and now, of course, we get the next rally. So, the trend, even though I sort of had sort of said, okay, well, this trend is broken because we sort of broke the trend line, but there's something sort of new establishing here. So even though I'd sort of still view it as this trend being done, that there's a new trend going on. So whether or not it's the part of the same trend. So what I was looking at, I was sort of thinking, okay, well, if this is a trend, maybe that we're going to get that sort of corrective movement before we get the next trend. But that seems to have happened at an accelerated rate as we push up here. And just remember, this is this is the all-time high. So we'll just jump in and have a look at that. But I think the point being here is, once I sort of get to this point, I'm just thinking, okay, well, we can't look left anymore because there's nothing to look left at. We're going into price discovery. So, I can just sort of do some projection work. So I was sort of thinking, okay, well, this is what I was thinking when we got up here, sort of around 100% of this move. We sort of had an equal leg move here, but and this sharp correction away, even though we did a big poke through, made me think, okay, well, maybe the correction's going to go on a bit longer, but obviously that is not happening now. So we can project here. I mean, we're sort of into an area here. This is one zone here, just into the all-time high, but I'm sort of thinking that this is going to go on now. And also, we were looking at that sort of cup and handle target, which sits up here. We'll have a look at that again, but that's 161.8 extension of this move coming off the bottom like that. So what we're really doing here is creating areas where we just need to have a look at what price is doing on a smaller scale and work out what we can see. Now, I haven't really done a lot of Elliott work with this lately, but I guess you could kind of say that this kind of looks like maybe a 1, a 2, maybe this is a big 3, and this is a 4, and we're going up to get a 5, something like that. Or maybe this is a 3, and you've got a big expanded flat here for a 4, and then we're going to go up and get a 5th wave like that. So there has been times where I've thought, oh no, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that looked like it. But the thing with Elliott is price leads Elliott, not the other way around. So all you do is sort of sketch it up as price develops. So I'd kind of be thinking that in an Elliott sense, but I'm not going to lean into this. I'm just sort of labeling it up the way that kind of makes sense. So we could sort of put this as some sort of impulse, and we had this sideways chop, which looked like a triangle. So if that, I don't know if that means that this is a big A, B, C going in like that. Time will tell. But I'm not going to spend too much time on that. That would just be how I'd look at it at this stage. So I think what's really important here, what we just got to go off, is just what we can see up here on the short term, because we just want to look at how the players are interacting with the market, how the volume's going through, and what's really going on this hard right edge. So we know that this is the all-time high here, and we've just poked through there today. We haven't closed through it, like there's nothing kind of definitive going on there just yet, but I expect it will. So even just looking at this, so I'll take the cup and handle off, but you can see we talked about this, the nice cup, the handle, and this would be the target up here at we're in US dollars, of course, up here at 66, sort of 30 to 40, call it that. So that would be on this particular trade. We'll see if this pans out, but on that particular trade and that setup, that would be the target there. But right now, all we've really got to see, which we go off, is we've got a rally, an internal retracement that's now gone external, and we have hit the first measured move target up there. Actually, it was kind of it was pretty nice yesterday, where the high was literally on that target, but of course, and just short of the all-time high. And this is why I was sort of pointing this out, saying, there's a couple of things here. We'll just see what it goes hand in hand with that. But right now, we've just broken that measured move target, so we just have to see into next week if we can continue to push on like we have. Or if we do some sort of correction. But if we were going to correct, you could just follow the sequence, right? So then the next sequence is you'd simply come off this pivot. If this was going to prove to be the high, you'd just be looking for the next pullback. Okay, and it wouldn't be unexpected for it to pull back after it sort of runs at the all-time high. I mean, it could just explode through, of course, but that would just be the next point of call. That'd just be how you go about it in the interim. And what's kind of interesting is if this did prove to be the high, and we did get a bit of a pullback, look where the next measure move target is. It would set up to be a 1-to-1 move of whatever that proved to be. So that, just a little bit more confluence there. So what's that? That's $58.76, sort of around there. So that would be kind of interesting if that sort of panned out like that. But we've got to see if this will retrace. So let's just quickly have a look at the volume as well. So it's been kind of cool this week because this is, let me move this out of the way so you can see it. You can see that the volume here has just steadily grown every day this week, and then sort of Friday we've had quite a good volume week, which is not unexpected as we get to the all-time highs. It just puts the stock on everyone's radar, and people who aren't necessarily involved in the space intimately, who maybe just come and go, sort of tourist money. Well, it just probably puts it on a lot of stock screeners, and we know that CCJ is a good one because of the volume and the liquidity. It's a good trading vehicle for a lot of people. So, it's not a surprise that as we got to the all-time high here, the volume increased. And just as we have a bit of an examination, this is Tuesday right here. Obviously, Monday was shut. So we can just see, the points of control and the time periods that we've been setting up at have just stepped high, just a little bit, just creeping, right? But like I said, the volume's just clicked up every day. So, the interest has grown there. So now we're here, right? So, look, we have closed pretty well. I would just like to see this sort of thing repeated, but just above the all-time high. Okay, so just to allow some more price action up here, because what we really want to see is volume done above that level, so we know that there's no fresh supply up there, and when the supply overwhelms, that's when we know. When the demand overwhelms the supply, that's how price moves higher. Okay, so we were talking about this before, how we had this day where we did all the volume above this big breakout level, and we did dip back below it. But the point of all that was that, and I know a lot of this might have been got to do with options expiry, but the point is that when we got back here, okay, there wasn't any fresh supply, and markets just testing higher and higher as the demand sort of grows, and there's not enough supply to meet it. So that all looks pretty good to me. I'd just be looking for this sort of thing to now develop above. We want to start seeing volume and points of control and closes above that all-time high. That's just what we're looking for into next week. So energy fuels, the one that we've sort of has been off the radar because it's just been a pretty horrible stock, but it's finally starting to show some signs of life. I'll leave you to speculate as to why. It doesn't really bother me. I don't really care why it does. All I care is it is. That's what's important. Whatever price is doing now, that's what's important, right? So we know we've tapped this area a lot of times in terms of the retracement. Okay, the retracement off the big run. So all this, all that. We've held so far. We've held the retracement zone, but we're yet to push away from it, and it's taken years. But this is a good start. That's all I would say at this point. It's a good start because what we've got here is the genesis of a trend change, because we've got a higher high. So we've got the first ingredient. What do we need? We need a higher low, something that doesn't bust that, and then another higher high. Once we've got that, you can almost then stick your flag in the ground and go, okay, this downtrend, this corrective move is over, and we can expect more upside. So we had the little, I think we've been over this before, but we had the little sign. So when we just look at the size and the strength of the swings here, you can see up here, right? So the last swing was only 18 trading days, and it fell 25%. So you can see here that this 29 trading days was the last big downswing, so that was this one. This swing's been smaller. This upswing was 14 trading days and 20%, but right now we're on 22 days and we're up nearly 40%. So, what we see is we've just got smaller downswings and we've got growing upswings. So that in itself is a good thing. And then all we got to look for is the next retracement, and we don't know if this is the top yet, of course, but that would just be your point of call, just looking for the next retracement. That would be your buy zone, and then on we go again, and that is how the trend would set up. So it's like the old Linda Radke thing. It's like buy the first pullback after a new high. Well, you've got the new high, okay, so you've got these new highs here, so the next pullback is important. That's going to be your ideal entry point. Now, it goes without saying that the market is pretty warm up here. So, just because the market's hot doesn't mean it will retrace. It just means it's probably, you could buy it, but I just think if you're going to buy it, you've got to be prepared for it to come all the way back down. I don't think it will, but if you're going to buy it up here, well, you just got to think about where you're mentally going to have your stop, where you can hold it to, because you wouldn't want to see it get back down through there. Well, that goes without saying. But I would just be a bit patient here. I mean, it could, it's difficult to fight the FOMO as it pushes, and it might break the top of this trend, and it's on everyone's stock screen, and everyone's talking about it. But either way, I'd still just be trying to fight the feeling of not waiting for it to come back like that. That's how I would be playing energy fills at this stage. But if we get that, I would then be expecting much more upside. So let's see what happens. So let's just have a look at Denison now, and this is kind of doing the same thing. So I thought we'd had a range here, but we never got back to the bottom of the range, so we kind of just stalled out there. Now, in terms of a retracement trade, this one went a little bit deeper than I would have liked, and we've sort of almost to and through, if you know what I mean. So I think when you look at this, I would probably, because we're just sort of reaching high here and we're sort of blue skying a bit, actually we can step out further on this one, but how much do you put into this rip here back in 2011? I don't know, but certainly just as a natural sort of thing, you would probably looking at that. I would suggest, even though I don't know if I put too much credence into it, we'll mark it off anyway. It's a potential area of interest, but I'd kind of just look at this as maybe the start of some sort of impulse. And maybe it could even come off that, because that's probably the last good retracement trade where here's the second target for the retracement trade. So what I'm talking about is off this pivot. Okay, you've got the pullback here, and then it's got to here, it's got to and through it, so that would be the next area that you'd be looking for. But just for me, I'm just looking at up and close, because really what you think about, okay, well, what sort of price targets can I have here? Like, what sort of areas should I pay attention to as potential points where the market might pivot? So I would probably reach for Elliott at this stage. I think that's 1, 2, and just look for 3 like that. Maybe get a 4, 5 up like that. But certainly, so what, $2.50? I mean, and that's a nice psychological area as well. It's not very far away. That would be. Anytime I say this, I'm not saying, oh man, if it gets there, you got to dump your position. I'd just be like, okay, well, I'll just check it out here. I just want to pay a bit of attention to see what sort of signals the market's giving me. So that would just be the point of call there with Denison. But otherwise, this is pretty steep. It's run pretty quickly off this low. Okay, it's only been 15 days, and we've had a pretty strong push. So we're not quite free barring yet, but we're close. So definitely hot, and once again, you would just wait for the retracement if and when it came. So that would be how I play Denison. So yeah, $2.50. I'd just be looking up there. I'd be hesitant to buy off the bat. I'd be waiting to see how it reacts there. UEC, this one's been a bit more difficult after it was such a great one. It was the cleanest, and now it's sort of gone very, very ugly. But the one thing I can sort of see here is you can see through here the volume, the average volume is just tailing away as we crunch into this wedge. Now, the interesting thing about this is when you turn it to a line chart, that wedge becomes much more stark when we're just looking at, because we're just looking at the close. So we could even just lines with markets. We can, you can line up all these closing values, and you can just see the structure just sort of fill out there. But it's much more stark the way that this is definitely wedging in on dropping volume. So I would just read that as there's a breakout coming one way or the other. yeah, an Elliott waiver would sort of think, well, that is more likely to do that. I don't know, but we haven't really done much of a retracement, off the big run for UEC. So that remains a possibility, but why would it drop? I don't know. But it's definitely not playing to the same tune as everybody else is, right? And you can just see that volume, that average volume tailing away. So this bears watching, because you know what? It could do that. It could definitely break. But I think the point is here, it looks like it wants to have a pretty major break one way or the other. So yeah, an Elliottician would say this was an A, a triangle B, looking for a C. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. It could just go like that. So let's just keep an eye on this, but that is what I see with UEC at the moment. The Uranium Physical Trust, this one's kind of interesting as well, right? It's not really dancing to the beat of the rest. And, you know, the price is struggling. So just, I mean, I think it's fair to say, you're just going to say, okay, well, we've got a lower high. We just need that lower low to confirm the downtrend, but, you know, it is trending down. Now, that's on a bigger scale, and then, of course, right now, up close and personal, we're trending down. Okay, that's why the candles are red, because this is just stepping down. All the pivots are getting lower. So we do have a downward moving market here. I'll just get rid of this wedge because it's gone. But this one's just it's just struggling. I don't know why. I'm not interested in why. I'm just interested in what the price is telling me. Okay, so we are right here now into the retracement, and that, of course, you can see lines up with some of this sort of structural element down there. Maybe even skips down there a little bit more. So we will have to wait and see. But if you're a bullish, this is the sort of area, I think, here where you want this to hold, because this now you want this to start extending to move us away from the danger zone of being in a confirmed larger downtrend after the massive run up. So, you know, if this does confirm a larger downtrend, well, what does that mean for the overall market? I don't know, maybe not much. But certainly it would be healthier, I would suggest, to at least, it would be healthier to at least start to form up some sort of structure here where the market was indeed ready to start trending higher. Okay, breaking this top. Okay, so just so it then confirms this structure. Okay, as a new trend forming, okay, after the long trend we had. But right now, I think this is just in a very interesting zone, because it just, to me, if we start getting through this box, you know, this downside will then beckon. Okay, just technically, that's just what it looks like. So we will see, but we'll keep our eye on the lows holding here in the Physical Uranium Trust. Just the last one I wanted to brush over today, Encore Energy. Just this one because it looks interesting, right? Because, you know, we sort of said, oh, okay, well, at this point you're thinking, okay, the range is held, but then all of a sudden, you know, what do we got? Well, it's wedging, okay, and it just keeps rubbing into this top. So it's kind of cool. I mean, look at all this wick action up here. It just, I think, the volume it grows every time we get up here. So I think there is, you know, levels of supply up here. There's people looking to get it. Maybe they tried to buy it here and it didn't work. They tried to buy it here, it didn't work, and people are trying to unload. But you can see as we get higher and higher, the volume's growing. So it looks like there's a bit of supply through here, but the way it keeps bumping up here, it's almost like that supply is probably being taken on now, and demand might be very close to overwhelming it. So just to me, it looks like most of the main supply would have got satisfied here. But, you know, having spent a lot of time here back on the 20th of May, they faltered away. Now, once again, we're starting to step down. So, you know, there is, I mean, it looks like that was more buying than selling, but, you know, we just haven't quite breached there. But the fact that we're just not really moving away, I'll just turn this off because I know it can look a little bit confusing. The fact that every time we get up here and the selling is overpowered the buying, on the way back down, you know, the buyers are being more and more resolute as we go on. So, you know, that battle zone is growing. And to me, this just looks like a really interesting one, to look for a big breakout. That's how, I mean, personally, if it was me, I would not buy the breakout. That's just because the way I do it, I would let it break, let it retest, and that's when I would be more interested in buying it. But I just thought I'd point this one out because the way this is structured up, it's just a classic wedge, right? We're just rubbing up against this edge, but so we've got the same highs, but the lows are getting higher. Okay, so it looks like something's ready to happen here, but just because it's doing that, word of warning, just because it's doing that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to break. It could break down. It could break down. The supply could overwhelm the demand, and down goes price. So if we start losing these sort of pivots where the demand zones have been, well, the demand has run out. So anyway, I just think that's interesting. Let's keep an eye on Encore Energy, and we'll see what happens into next week. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Let's see what happens next week. I think it's going to be interesting. Take care. Bye for now.